Hey everyone, and welcome to the Color Authority. Today, I'm going to be chatting with Bridget Frizzie from Chicago. Bridget comes to the table with over 20 years of experience as a provocative lifestyle designer, handling everything from event ideation, interior styling, color customization, hospitality design, and visual merchandising, but she's also an accomplished floral designer. She is creative director and senior strategist of Kehoe Design, a full-service event, decor, and production company. She's board member of Color Marketing Group, and her skill set includes blending a multicultural background, a passion for travel, and a relentless pursuit of trend spotting. Her default is a nearly obsessive curiosity with future trends, color forecasting, and scenario planning. She's a patient hunter with a meticulous eye for finding the subtle nuances in design and innovation and envisioning how they're indicators of what's next. Bridget's style of thinking melts together seemingly unrelated facts, ideas, and nudges of information in transponding results that are both inspiring and relatable. Welcome to the Color Authority, Bridget. I'm so happy that you're here. How are you today?
Oh my gosh, I am so well. I am so excited to be here with you, Judith. This is just so fun. I cannot wait.
I read through your bio, and of course, we've known each other for a while now, and you are a woman of so many talents. I don't even know where to start. But when looking a little bit about all the things that you've done in the past in your professional career, you seem to know already from a very early beginning in your career what you wanted. And because when I look at what you studied and when you ended up, I see that your journey seems to be very fluent. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. I think I have always been in the design world. My mind has always been there. I've always been a creative problem solver. So every ideation of my growth, it was really a reflection of the creative process of growing. And I kind of just use my life is my design platform, right? As an artist. So that's but it's really interesting. At a very young age, I'm Colombian. I'm a naturalized citizen here, but my heritage really actually almost accelerated the reasons why I am choosing the career that I've been in is because as Colombians, it's really all about the fiesta and the celebrations. And growing up as a child, my parents would be having these Saturday parties, and these Saturday parties would be like blown out events at the house where people would come with their beautiful hair and their beautiful clothes and their shoes and to the nines, and they would dance the night away. And, sitting there as like a 5-year-old analyzing clothes and makeup, it kind of almost naturally occurred.
Is that one of the reasons why you decided, to enter in fashion and then now obviously in communications and interiors for events? Is that the reason?
You know what? I kind of went about it in an interesting path because I started off in the beauty industry. And, I was a hairdresser for a very long time and a colorist. And so I was always in the color arena, even way back then. And it's really, the creative process was always about how to express beauty, right? I've always loved and aspired to be in a beautiful world. And so everything that I do is for that. And so beauty was just one of the stepping stones. And then visual merchandising, well, I went to school at FIT. I wanted to be a fashion designer. But then when I got there, it wasn't exactly what I wanted. So visual merchandising and store design was really my introduction to that world where fashion was there, but it was not about the clothes. It was what the clothes represents and where are they going, and telling these stories in visual, obviously in window design, which is this black box that you can create whatever you want. And that black box is kind of like a metaphor for, my career. I don't know, when you begin, you don't have any parameters of what's going in the box. But when you're done, you have this these beautiful expressions of whatever you want them to be.
And you connect to everybody, because who doesn't walk by a shopping window by Bloomingdale's or, for example, in London Harrods? I mean, everybody gets to see those, whether you can afford what's in that shopping window or not. You connect with so many people within society as well.
Absolutely. And I worked for Nordstrom's. So I had, a really, really great company to learn from. There, in the visual merchandising world, there is, freedom and there's discipline, right? You have the freedom because you have that black box, do whatever you want. But then you have discipline that you have to really have precision to be able to communicate whatever the messaging you are intuitively trying to do, right? So it was always that, but in a creative way. And so, even to this day, still creating within that black box, I look back at my times and I'm like, some of those window displays were some of the best moments of my life. It was kind of like that movie Mannequin. It was like that. You just go in the middle of the night, here's all the stuff, put your house together. It's just like, I would look back at it and I'm like, wow, that was really fun.
It's the dream of, I think, a lot of girls that want to be a designer or indeed an artist, to be able to do that, to put that together. And then indeed, as you say, in the morning, the sun comes up and it's ready. And you have that moment in which people and yourself also sees the overview of the creation.
Correct. And the expression of joy and happiness, right? Because every single one of those types of stories that you're telling really evokes something in someone, whether it's, you're showing off the newest dress for spring and, showing it in a conservatory, in a garden somewhere. I mean, it just evokes these like thoughts of like, wow, I would love to be there.
How do you come about your theme development? Because obviously before you start such a project, whether that was in the older times or right now for Kehoe, you have to have a theme that you develop, a story. How do you go from that theme development to then the smaller details and then obviously the color choices that you do?
Sure. I mean, so much of it is done in the research and development stages. I mean, and obviously trend plays a huge role in themes. And also, it also kind of is, you really have to tap into the not only the micro trends, but the macro trends to see what is launching in a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now. And then you take, just the tidbits of what they're doing, whether it's a movie launch, whether it's an auto that's coming out that has, the concept car has it's beautiful because of these little things, or is it a new exhibit at the museum? So playing off of all these things that people will already be going to and already knowing them. So now we know in times, obviously greenery has been evolving and moving up for 5 years now. But now it's like now everybody needs a little bit of greenery in their life, right? Everyone needs that feeling of being out or outside, but bringing it inside. So the act of being in conservatory is just one idea. Is evoking that feeling of this is fresh, this is health and wellness. I want to be here. Yeah. So that's kind of like a little bit of how the process kind of evolves. But as far as the themes go in the event world, oh my gosh, there's a lot of body of work that is built so that we can almost pick and pull out specifically for what clients are looking for.
It sounds like you work with a very broad range of customers. You've talked about museums, you talked about automotive brands. I know that you've also worked in many other fields. Which of these do you think is the most, let's say, trend-worthy, let's say, customer that really follows trends? Or do you also have customers that don't really fall into that trend area and they rather develop a theme that maybe longer lasting? Maybe it's more mega, not micro or macro trend.
Yeah, I think so much of what we do is also built on, those contextual changes and consumer evolution, right? So if we're pitching something for a client who is an early adapter or an innovator, I mean, we really have to step out really far ahead, but we have to know what trends are going to be there so that they come back and just say, yes, that you nailed it, because that's really where I wanted to be. Another client that would come in and be like, I don't want to be that far. I want to be, I want my friends to feel very comfortable, and I want them to be, right here, maybe 6 months out, or maybe it's a year out. And so we look at what, obviously, the work that we've done in the past to coordinate with them. So we give them what they're looking for in the space and time that they are looking to be in.
Well, how far have you looked out for a customer? Is that a year? Is that 2 years? Is that more?
I mean, I think for the company, we got to kind of go 3 to 5 years out, meaning that we hunt for the sources, we hunt for the strategies, the color, the material, the finishes way ahead. And then we bring them in as, the popularity comes in. So if the popularity is kind of calling out in the event world carpets, we'll have a range of carpets, these new carpets that are coming in, but we'll have them in the parameters of those years. So we'll have a very, very select for those really innovator people that are going to go here. Our adapter people probably won't choose those, but we need to have an arsenal of things right now for them. So we kind of try to bounce between them so that we really have a large supply to be able to give them what they're looking for.
So earlier you talked about greenery. So this is really about reconnecting to nature, something that everybody has really been talking about. And we've all understood how important that really is. Do you see this as a trend that is cross industry, or do you see that particularly in just, for example, interior design?
It's across everything. I think because greenery or green in itself is now a new neutral, it needs to live in pretty much all the worlds. I think a lot of people probably won't tell you, oh, by the way, I need greenery. I think you have to put it in because intuitively they are going to feel a certain way. So you don't really, a lot of what the work in the event portion of it is kind of what Diane Vreeland said, is give them what they don't know they want and put it in there. And then they're kind of like, I would have never asked for that, but this feels really, really good. So I think that, it has to be within all those worlds.
Okay, Bridget Frizzie, how do you understand what people don't know what they want, but they'll want it? What is your strategy?
I think, again, a lot of it is a lot of research. I always say it's like the research that I do, and I already know what their hair is going to look like. I already know that where they're going to shop. I know what the dresses that they're going to have. I know the restaurants they're going to go to. I know the shoes they're going to have. I know what they're going to want within those parameters of what those people are looking to achieve when they're in that. So in other words, you give them what you want. So you almost go, it sounds crazy, right? But if they're coming to an event already wearing what you've already seen out there, then you know where to put them, right? You know how to make sure that they feel comfortable in that world.
So in the end, it is important about making people feel comfortable indeed, because although trends may be very, let's say sexy to follow, they don't always match up to, how people want to be surrounded with certain colors that often are very vibrant, they're very saturated, for example. And especially when we want to feel those feelings of comfort, there is a certain palette that would fit and a certain palette that does not. And not often, obviously, trends, colors are the right way to follow for some, indeed.
I think the other really important thing is, again, we're talking about the event industry. So we're very clear that we play in both worlds, the natural color and in the digital color. And so, when you see these types of events happening, there's like an orchestration between the natural color and the timing in which those So it's basically like storytelling at that particular point, right? So if a client, for instance, says, I want the classic blue, that is what I want to base this color on, right? It's a Pantone color of the year for last year. But it's like, if you are then putting it into this other world that doesn't really have blue, it's like you could still play with it, but then, lighting company comes in and balances out that color with digital color. So in essence, that blue that was there by the end of the night is now like a Bordeaux color, or it's like a purplish color, right? So we can change that natural and digital to fit a story that we're telling.
That's very
That makes sense.
I think, yeah, no, totally. Because I think in today's world, and I mean, you directly live this situation right now, we cannot attend physical events.
Sure.
So the solution is to obviously go digital. And then we all know how that changes our perception, our social connection, but also
Absolutely.
color. What has been your solution to bring color out through screens and in your online events?
I think, a couple of different things. I think we've really learned that in the future, we will have hybrid events, right? We'll also have a combination of live and virtual. And I think it's really, really much paying attention to putting as much effort into those virtual events, where in this year, it was just a little clunky. It's a little bit primitive. I think as we move into next year, they will be better assessing and educating people on how to use, especially like if they're doing meetings at home or those at-home kits. It's like, make sure that your lighting, your audio, and pretty much how you position yourself, your backdrops, the kind of makeup, it's all in a form of it feeling like a live event, but you're home. So you're going to have a combination of those types of hybridization, I should say.
Yeah, you think we're going to continue for the rest of this year doing hybrid, possibly also next year, or where do you feel this whole events world is going to play out into?
I think, again, it's forces we really have no control over at this particular moment, but I can tell you, as far as socio behavior, people are ready. They are ready to go live. However, I don't believe we're going to go there just yet, and we're going to have to stay virtual. It's going to be, I think, it's very tricky because I think we're already starting to burn out on virtual. So I think that you're kind of going to have these smaller live events with the virtual events, because again, we really are in this human deprivation mode, right? We need some connection. So even if we see a smaller group of people connecting and then a larger group virtual, it will kind of give us a little bit of more hope and excitement for when we are completely open. And once we're completely open, I know I've told you this before, it's like, holy, like the floodgates were coming. I mean, the amount of parties, the amount of celebration that people have been thinking about and wanting to do it's going to be crazy.
Yeah, I personally can't wait. And I know most of my friends can't wait either. I mean, as for example, a foreigner living in obviously in Italy, in Milan, you don't get to see your family. You don't get to see all of you guys, of Color Marketing Group, but even your colleagues abroad, you can't do much. You're always seeing those same people. So I agree with you. People are ready to get out and about.
Yes. And I think we are going to see much more, managing director at Black Oak said, more analog type of events, meaning that when we do virtual, there is going to have to be this other form of connection, whether it be in a return to a paper invitation, a return to something tactile that they get, and then have a live event that it is in, so that we are touching something somehow in connection. So during these middle periods of time before we actually get to those live events.
Yeah, hopefully that will be soon. What events in the last couple of months or maybe years you have organized that is your absolute favorite and gave you huge satisfaction? And can you tell us a little bit why?
Oh my gosh. This is kind of like, the question of all questions. It's like, after a career of 25 years in the event industry, it's very hard to choose is one, because everyone is like, oh, I want to do this next time, or oh my God, if I only had the chance, I'm going to do this one this time, or this is, so I always think the next one is going to be the one. So but I've had such an incredible ride doing these events. If I had to pick one, it would be the opening to the Garrity, which is a venue that Tom Kehoe, the owner of Kehoe Designs, always dreamed of doing. And again, as an event visionary who then produces an event for himself, what does that look like? We did a very big study on the macro trends out there and, some of the mega trends out there. And so we put them into this event because it's everything that we always wanted to do for our clients, but our clients were always a little nervous doing. So it dropped and it became one of the best success, I think, that we ever did. So it's on the website for the Garrity. It's their opening pictures and stuff, but everything was just what we wanted. When the industry said, no, you can't do, lounge seatings that are that way, or we wanted to do revolving seating so people can have a point of view of the entire, because we had a lot of stages around this particular event. So on the main stage, and then you had these smaller pockets that had entertainment on them. And then we had these circular seating lounges. So you could be standing there and it could just turned really slowly. So in the course of a conversation, you now had a different point of view. Things like that. We put walls where there shouldn't have been walls. We made people float through a certain place. We made them feel through sensories that wouldn't ordinarily have come out. It was, we had drones outside. It was just everything that we would put into like an adult child dream.
It sounds fabulous. And I think a lot of people are probably now going through your website and indeed checking it out. But besides you working for Kehoe Designs, you're also a futurist. Can you a little bit explain what a futurist is and a little bit maybe about your vision about our future or near future?
Sure. For me, a futurist is one that really curates connected strategies influenced by future vision. That's what I do. But I think futurists are ones that are extremely observant people. They have a real great sense of intuition, and they really listen to the hunches, because a lot of the future is already here. It's just that we have to listen to it. We have to listen to it, and we have to almost slow down so that we can actually see it evolving. I also think for me, it is really, really important to be a generalist. And that means to have a lot of intellectual curiosity in a lot of different arenas. I spent a lot of my time looking at creators in other areas that I have no business being in, but it's so fascinating. The way in which they tell the story is connecting. And then it's like, oh yeah, they, whether in mathematics or in engineering and in biodesign or in chemistry, it's like you still see these little nuggets of the future coming forward.
And I think that is very well said, because you can be a futurist and you can talk about things that sometimes maybe for some people are very hard to envision or to understand. But I think in the end, if you can connect with the audience and you can explain it to them, then you are a true futurist.
Yeah. And I think it really says that it's really not about so much about predicting the future. It's really about seeing the possibilities that haven't really yet been understood. And I think it's just in the language, really bringing them forward. There's also two camps of futurists. Obviously, I'm more of an immediate futurist, meaning that I see trends that can be explained almost. But I also think a true futurist, I think the greatest futurist is Alvin Toffler. And he said, unless your view of the future is thoroughly unbelievable, you have no chance of being correct. But that is a guy, or those are the guys that are way out there. And you have to go out there to be a futurist. You have to sit in the discomfort of it. But in order to have it move a little bit closer to socio-behavior of what people are moving, you have to move closer. So you have to be an immediate futurist. That's the way I look at it. It's probably not the way they look at it, but that's the way I look at it.
Exactly. No, but I fully understand, and I agree. Looking into the future often to look into trends, but also the future colors. I think you have to be exactly as you just explained, understandable and in the immediate, looking for signals that are happening right now that are pointing into a plausible future. Bridget, about colors, where do you find your color inspiration? Pre-COVID and then obviously now during COVID.
I think as a color consultant, I think that for me, my job is to hunt for those like nuances in socio-behavior. Obviously, you work with your forecasted colors because, again, like no color actually just goes away or comes back. It just adds this very subtlety. So if you slow down, you could actually see the progression of the colors changing. And so it's timing, right? It's about making those observations on timing, because color really is, obviously the psychology of color is really what people gravitate to when they want to express a certain feeling, right? That's how they grow. So really it's about those nuances. I can say I studied under Leatrice Eisman and, at the Eisman Center for Color Information. And I think she had this masterclass that I still to this day use the principles of on finding those nuggets where color emerges, and that is obviously in the things that we know already. So again, what does the covers of movies that are going to be blockbusters in 2022 and in 2023. Again, what does exhibits at galleries going to do? So looking at all of these things is really what I keep, and I keep them in stacks, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, totally. So it's something that you've learned from, let's say, in the earlier part of your career, and that now for you comes almost easy to adapt to your daily life and your daily work as well.
Yes, absolutely. It does. It's very intuitive because I see it rising, even to the subtlest of details. When you see items, or just things, particularly in apparel, if you see them come out on the floor and then they instantly go on sale, you question why. What is it about it? What was it that didn't work? And the obvious answer is it was probably too early. Because if you, like I would love to, because I would buy that in a second, because I know that 2 years from now, that particular piece is going to be spot on and everyone's going to want it and nobody's going to be able to get it. But that's what I'm saying. It's like those little bits of information that intuitively that, those hunches.
Yeah. And that's all intuition in the end.
You can study a lot. I mean, I definitely do a lot of studying in trend forecasting, obviously. And I'm always in some sort of masterclass in form of education. And I'm always deep into books. So I spend a lot of time researching and just reading because I'm just a hugely curious person.
Yes, you are we exchange so often books on anything really, that we just send each other of must reads, right? What is a project that you are very passionate about?
It's so interesting. The event industry is like a little quiet right now. So it's like, okay, well, what can we do? Well, we can do interiors for anywhere, right? So one of the most fascinating things about event professionals is that they are so adaptable and they're hybrids, right? They can go into other arenas because basically they are spend so much time studying human behavior. So we are now working on a restaurant project. So we are looking to forecasted colors to, again, how to elevate this dining experience post-COVID, even though it's going to be opening in June. So it's a very fast project. So that we find ways to assure people on their safety and also their physiological, right? Maslow's hierarchy of needs, so that they feel comfortable, that they want to sit there, that they want to enjoy whatever it is this menu is going to be. So it's really fascinating. But we've done all the work in the last 2 years. Feels relatively easy in the sense of the choosing color, but I think it's still a challenge when it's such a fast turn.
It is, yeah. But it does sound like a very exciting project that although it started maybe like 2 years ago, and obviously 2 years ago, there was no such thing as COVID. Nobody had any idea that this was coming. So you also had to transform the project along the way. And now it's almost there. And that must be so exciting.
I think it's so exciting because in the beginning, we talked about greenery, right? We talked about the event industry. It was perfectly aligned to putting indoor, outdoor. I mean, we had our indoor furniture out in the museum entrance, right? We had our interiors outside under these beautiful tents. So now it's like 2 years later, it's like event people, it's like we already been dining outside. We have already been giving people this idea of moving plushness outside. And then we have already been moving outdoor feelings, large trees, gardens, statues, everything that from the outside, and we've been putting them in. So adapting them that the restaurant or the hospitality world, we already have the work done, if that makes sense.
I look very much forward to see it online, and then obviously maybe one day to be able to visit it.
Oh my gosh, it will be such a great dining experience. Yeah, I think it's one of those things that I just look forward to because, again, we haven't had it for so long, right? To be able to dine with friends. Oh my gosh, it's like...
Seems ages ago. I know, right?
Right? It does.
Well, Bridget, I wanted to thank you for everything that you've shared. It's been super interesting. I hope you enjoyed the conversation as well. I know the audience is enjoying the conversation. And again, a big, big, big thank you to you.
Oh, absolutely. It was just a joy.
Well, thank you, everybody who has been listening to The Color Authority. And I look forward to my next episode with spot trends. So watch out for that and talk very soon. Thanks, everyone.